And welcome inside episode 130 of Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. My name is Justin Ayers. I am joined by my guy, Ricky Finkel. He's going to help me break down the MLB Trade Deadline, which just passed on Tuesday when you're listening to this on Thursday. So, Ricky, first, how are you? Thoughts just overall? We'll go broad, sweeping thoughts. How do you think the trade deadline went?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Justin. I mean, it feels like a typical post-trade deadline day where I'm just trying to recap and recover and honestly just remember everything that happened because it was so adventurous. It's a deadline unlike others where a lot less A-tier talent was moved, but definitely a lot of moves around, a lot of guys moving around the margins, and it'll be interesting to see who makes the biggest difference.
Definitely a quantity over quality approach.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were upset about the big A-list tier guys, the Tarek Skubals, the Garrett Crochets, even like the Vladdies and Bo Bichettes. The people were kind of waiting to see where those guys would go, and they obviously are staying put with their current clubs. Were you disappointed that there wasn't more star power, or were you just excited by the sheer quantity of deals that were had?
I don't know if I'd say disappointed by the star power. I mean, I feel like all the reporters did a really good job lowering everyone's expectations about the big moves that were going to happen or the lack thereof. I mean, no one I never really felt like Vladdy or Bo were going to get moved. No one, that was really concrete. No one, I don't really think anyone really thought Scooble was going to get moved. I don't think anyone actually thought, well, I think once that report came out, I knew it was going to be really hard to trade Crochet. So yeah, well, it would have been nice to see a lot more high-end talent. Honestly, I think these like a middle reliever going for a team's 20th best prospect, those feel like they end up having the most and the biggest impact by the end of the World Series.
I agree. I think there's a lot of those type of deals in that mid tier that guys are going to look back on in a couple months when they're pitching deep in October or hitting like home runs and key moments down the stretch. You're like, I'm really glad we have Tommy Pham on our team. If you're the Cardinals,
Yeah.
It's not like a blockbuster move, but guys in that kind of range. Was there a guy who didn't get moved, or maybe a guy that got moved that you wish would have went to a different spot? What was the move that you wish would have happened?
Move that I wish would have happened. I wish that the White Sox would have traded Crochet. I mean, obviously they made it really, really hard, or Crochet made it really, really hard on them when he came out with his contractual demands. But if I was the White Sox, there was no really reason that they shouldn't have traded him even like a month before. It felt like they knew they were going to have to get rid of him. It seemed like the White Sox probably knew that this was going to be an issue, and I think they should have just gotten ahead of it and sent him out there when a team maybe said. So I know recently Crochet said maybe 140 innings is around where he was, or 150 is where he's like looking to be this year. So right now I think that leaves him with like 3 or 4 starts, and if he's not going to pitch in October, it makes a lot of sense why teams wouldn't want to do that. But if you traded him in May, that's 2 or 3 months of starting. The team can play. Another team can figure out how they want to distribute that. Maybe he hasn't decided on the innings limit yet. We knew the White Sox weren't going to be good, so I definitely would have jumped on ahead of that and gotten rid of him a little earlier if I was them. Still wouldn't be surprised if he's traded in the offseason.
It's a great point. Yeah, the White Sox knew basically from the beginning of the season on that like this was not a competitive year. I don't know. Maybe they didn't expect him to be as good as he was. He was striking everybody out and leading the league and everything. So maybe they're like, wow, this is unexpected. But we'll talk about the White Sox GM, Chris Getz, a little bit later. He had some questionable decision-making at the trade deadline. That's a great one, though. My wish I would have happened trade was, how about the Orioles? So we'll talk about the Orioles more in a minute, but the fact that they didn't get Tanner Scott back, who they drafted and developed, he would have been perfect for that bullpen. He would have taken over for Craig Kimbrell as the closer. They already had a deal with the White Sox for Trevor Rogers. So why couldn't they just throw in a couple more prospects, make it a big package deal? You get Rogers, you get Tanner Scott, you check off all the boxes. I wish they would have done that. So that was one that I was a little perplexed by. And then, obviously Tanner Scott gets moved elsewhere. But yeah, definitely upset that they didn't pick up former O.
Yeah, I thought that would have been a good fit. I definitely liked their move of Eflin, but they felt like they could have used 1 or 2 more concrete guys in the bullpen coming out to shorten games a little bit when they get to the playoffs.
It's not a great looking bullpen, but we'll figure it out. All right. I love right after the trade deadline because we get winners and losers. Every publication out there does it, and we are no different because I will click on every article that ascribes winners and losers, so we are going to do the same. We'll start with the positive. We'll do some winners. I'll kick us off. I think the San Diego Padres are a massive winner at this year's trade deadline. They went out and acquired Tanner Scott, who I just talked about from Miami. They picked up Jason Adam from Tampa. Kind of an under the radar move that not a lot of people are talking about. Martin Perez, I know his numbers aren't great, but he definitely serves a purpose. Tanner Scott, 18 saves and 1.18 ERA, all-star for the first time. Guy throws gas. I mean, that's gonna be a great eighth inning guy to complement Suarez in the ninth for the Pods. Also, Jason Adam, who's controllable through 2026. His whiff rate is top 5% in the league. Again, you're shortening the length of the game if you're the San Diego Padres when you have a bullpen this good. And Martin Perez, he's going to be an innings eater, veteran innings eater. We talked about this with Jordan Lyles last week, where underappreciated role on an MLB club, but Martin Perez is going to give him some innings while they're in the absence of Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove. So 3 very key moves for the San Diego Padres as they're locked in a fist fight with the Dodgers top the NL West. So what do you think about what the Pods did over the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what it takes for someone and who disrespected AJ Preller to make him hate prospects as much as he does, because he just ships everybody out. And honestly, I'm thinking about it more and more, and it kind of makes sense. Build up a farm system and then go get a controllable guy, a guy like Juan Soto who you can then flip again, rebuild the system. I mean, he just does it so much differently than everyone else, where it's really refreshing to see where he doesn't really matter. As long as he's remotely close in striking distance, he's going to push all of his chips in the table and be really, really aggressive. And, it kind of felt like going to this year that everyone was kind of like the Padres a little bit of an afterthought because they had traded Soto away, but they still have such a strong lineup. They still have so much talent that, why not go for it? Why not? This is a winnable. The NL is gettable right now. They can get easily into the wild card race, and with that bullpen now, I mean, anything's up for grabs in the playoffs.
That's very well put. I looked up, they traded 12 players who were ranked among their top 15 prospects at the time. That includes their top 5 pitching prospects as ranked by MLB.com. Mm-hmm. AJ Preller loves prospects. I loves trading prospects. But I guess that's a side effect of drafting well, is the fact that like the pipeline of guys that other teams covet is always going to be there if you're AJ Preller. Dylan Cease trade, Luis Arias trade. This guy, I know fans like to crap all over him because a lot of these moves haven't really worked out. There was that one summer, I think it was 2015, or one winter in 2015, Preller Palooza, where you got like Matt Kemp and Kimbrel and all these guys. So guys, you don't want to play poker with AJ Preller because he's just going all in. Pods have won 8 of their last 10, 5.5 back of the Dodgers at the NL West. So they're going to make it a very fun run down the stretch.
Yeah, they're always a fun team. They're right there. I mean, they have a good week or two, and the Dodgers don't, and they're going up to Los Angeles with a chance to take the lead in the division. Very excited to watch.
Very underrated rivalry in baseball, Padres Dodgers. I think Preller definitely came out with the dub of this trade deadline. Here's another one that I like. How about the St. Louis Cardinals? They needed 3 things at the deadline. They needed starters, relievers, and they needed help against left-handed pitching. They acquired all 3 for basically nothing, which is insane. So they got Eric Fetty, who, been a revelation this year. Tommy Pham, grand slam in his first game back. We'll talk more about him. Sharon Armstrong from the Tampa Bay Rays, who they got for Dylan Carlson, who I didn't realize has been as bad as he has been. Here's the kicker, though. We mentioned Chris Getz, the White Sox GM. I think the Cardinals took him for a ride. They got Fetty, they got Tommy Pham in a 3-team deal. They didn't have to send anybody to Chicago. How often do you see a 3-teamer work out like that?
Yeah, and then they send Edman to Los Angeles, who hasn't played for them at all this year, so it's not really like they're losing anything there. Definitely very impressed with what he did and with what the Cardinals did. And Tommy Pham is just such a great clubhouse guy. Everyone who plays with him loves him. He'll go balls to the wall for 9 innings, and he'll do whatever you need him to do, left, center, right, any spot in the order. He's just a perfect winning player to have. And obviously, the Cardinals know him well. So props to them for going to get him back and hit a grand slam the other day. Like you said, it's working right away.
Yeah, it's been great to see Tommy Pham back in St. Louis. He obviously loves the birds on the bat there. I saw a tweet, and it was like the 3 highlight players of the game. It was Lance Lynn, Tommy Pham, and Matt Carpenter. And somebody was like, what year is this? Just bringing everybody back.
Age is nothing but a number, Justin.
I always like it when teams go out and reacquire guys. It's just like, it's fun as a fan. you get the feelings of nostalgia, even if it doesn't work out. You're like, hey, he's back. Maybe the fans who held on to the jerseys were like, oh, sweet, get to dust off the old T-Fam Cardinals jersey. But yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of the Cards, what they have going on. I think Fetty's gonna be great. And Fetty has another year of control too, which is another thing. So like, I don't know, the White Sox probably could have done him separately for a big haul, which we'll talk about for starting pitchers is outrageous this year. But tough scene.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get more into the White Sox side of it later, but I do have a lot of questions about this deal specifically on their end of it, with they getting rid of, 2 or 3 of their biggest trade pieces of the whole year and kind of package them all together, which to me just doesn't really seem like the most efficient way to get the highest return.
100% agree. We talk about the pods in the NL West. I like what the Dodgers did. It pains me to say it because the Dodgers, I feel like, can just go out and acquire any piece that they want. So the big deal, obviously, is they got Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. They paid less for Flaherty than the Astros paid for Kikuchi, which is crazy. Also went out and got Kevin Kiermaier, Tommy Edman, who we just talked about from the Cardinals. Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech's going to be like an elite reliever for the Dodgers. Guy throws gas. Mm-hmm. Did you ascribe the Dodgers as a winner this deadline too?
I loved what they did. As soon as the Crochet trade demands and kicker stuff came out, I think Flaherty made perfect sense for them. I mean, he's a guy, he's been around for a while, but he's still relatively young, but he's got a lot of experience, and he's pitched in a lot of big games when he was in St. Louis doing his thing as a Cy Young contender. He was there. And as opposed to last year when, his numbers didn't look like they were returning to where he was, things didn't really seem, he was being successful, but he still wasn't Jack Flaherty on the Cardinals when he got traded to the Orioles at the end of the year. This year, he's just putting everything back together. I mean, he's been spectacular. His numbers are returning. I don't remember the exact metrics I saw off the top of my head, but I think it's like ground ball and whiff rate. All of this deep analytics are kind of reverting back to where he was a couple of years ago. And for the Dodgers team that desperately needs starting pitching right now, I mean, not even having to give up they give up their number 4 prospect and Trey Sweeney, who they got for 2 middling relievers from the Yankees a couple of years ago. I mean, that's a pretty no-brainer in my opinion. And to pay less than Kikuchi, I mean, Flaherty's definitely better than Kikuchi at this point. I would value him a lot higher, no matter where you're going to use him. So, that's a big winner on their part. And I will say also, I love the Tommy Edman deal for them. He's so versatile and can play every position. I think he's a switch hitter too. Whatever you want him to do, and that's just a perfect seamless fit in the Dodgers lineup where they have so many pieces moving around. And maybe he'll play a little bit of the infield while Mookie's out, and then maybe he'll go back into the outfield and pick up if Hayward is still hurt or if he's not playing as well. He's just a guy, and it seems like, he was taking BP at the field the other day, so he's been hurt all year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's coming back relatively soonish, pending a decent, spring training type thing where he gets his at-bats going. So yeah, I definitely love those deals on their end.
They just do everything right. They swooped in and got Flaherty like 2 minutes before the deadline, which is hilarious. Watching MLB Network, and they're like, whoa, the biggest piece. Basically, one of the best starting pitchers that was moved at the deadline was going to the Dodgers. But I love the Kiermaier trade. Kevin Kiermaier is going to retire at the end of the year. I love the fact that he has a chance to go and chase a ring, which he's never won in his career. He's a defensive whiz still. He's not even that old. He's like 33 or 34. So he's not like ancient, but you could tell that he wanted to go somewhere and, compete for a ring this year. So I'm glad they freed KK to go to the LA. Edman is also a defensive whiz. Kopech, like I said, throws gas, but I saw this stat and I was like, I feel like the Dodgers, and I think you might've talked about this last week, where it's just like the hilarious, like, mess of starting pitching that they've had to use because all their other ones have been hurt. Here are the last 5 starting pitchers the Dodgers had during a period in the month of July: Justin Robleski, James Paxton, River Ryan, Landon Knack. It's not exactly a murderer's row. No offense to any of those guys. I think there's some top prospects in there, but when you're the LA Dodgers and you win 110 plus every year, it feels like you gotta give me something better than River Ryan, Landon Knack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the prospect pedigree of those guys are. I know Robleski, I think he's the guy they traded for Edman, at least, or in that deal. I mean, they're always just bringing up these guys out of nowhere, injecting value into them because they're the Dodgers, and then they can trade them for something else. So, hopefully they kind of turn it around a little bit with the new pitching staff. And I know Glasnow is back soon. I know Kershaw, I think he was back or he's due back very soon. I know Yamamoto's 60 days coming up too. I mean, they're definitely they're just a get healthy for October type of team, honestly, at this point.
They did it the right way too. Here's another winner that I had. It's not a team. It's kind of an outside the box thinking here. A winner at this year's deadline was every team with a pitcher after the Blue Jays traded Yusei Kikuchi, because that price that they made the Astros pay for a guy with a 4.75 ERA is just insane. They got Jake Bloss, Joey Loperfido, and Will Wagner, Billy's son. Bloss is the number 9 prospect in the system. Wagner was 13. Bloss was apparently going to be number 2 here in a little bit in the top 30 for a 2-month rental with a 5 ERA. They took the Astros behind the woodshed. They're like, give me all your stuff. It was absolutely a bludgeoning of a trade. And it set the market because every deal for a starting pitcher after that you felt like was like a little steeper after. So how crazy was that though?
Yeah, that was, I think, the highlighted deal of the day, that this makes no sense. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the reasons that Crochet too, and maybe the Flaherty deal took so long to come through, or didn't with the Crochet one, just because, I mean, why would you not ask for the moon and stars after the Astros give up that for Kikuchi? I think, to me, the hallmark of this deal might not have made sense, and maybe wasn't very good, is if the GM has to hop on an interview immediately afterwards and just explain everything and talk about how the market was so crazy and explain, well, this is why we had to trade these guys. That should be a sign right there, if you have to have all your talking points ready about why this deal was good, that maybe you shouldn't have made it. But you know what? At least they went out and got a piece. They needed pitching. So if he goes out and deals for 3 months and they get a ring out of it, no one will say anything.
It's a good point. If he goes out and just shoves for 2 months in a row, and everybody's going to look stupid, but goddamn, they gave up so many. Like a lot, like these guys are so cool. Jake Bloss, Georgetown Hoya, shout out. Didn't know that. You don't really associate Georgetown as, Hoya
also with this deal. I can't believe they traded away Billy Wagner's son. I don't know what his prospect degree was. I don't know if he's protected to be like his dad. But, I mean, Billy Wagner pitched for the Astros for a long time. You would think that they would want to keep his son just purely for that reason, and just maybe, makes a cool story, keep the Wagner family name going out. But no, I can't imagine. I know he wasn't the centerpiece of that deal too. It was Bloss. So, that's just an interesting little side piece of it too.
I agree that they missed a cool opportunity a couple years from now or whatever, however close he is to making his big league debut. He actually probably already made his debut. I should probably double check that. That would be funny if Will Wagner, second base. He's an infielder. Okay, he hasn't debuted yet, but in AAA this year, he's batting .307. So, tough price to pay for Yusei Kikuchi.
A little nostalgia hit. I mean, nothing game changing, but
exactly,
it's an interesting part of it.
We're ripping and rolling through the winners here. Here's an outside the box thinking one, because I think if you go online, the general sentiment against this team is that they're a loser. But I'm here to say the Tampa Bay Rays came out of this trade deadline as a winner. They traded 9 players. They got 14 prospects, 3 position players. They saved $15 million this year and $40 million in 2025. I saw a take, and I'm going to give this guy credit, Evan Klosky down there in the Tampa Bay area. He said, here's the crazy thing about the Rays. Adam becomes Rasmussen. Eflin becomes Springs. Randy Rosarena, you get Morel. Isak Paredes, Caminero. So basically all those guys are going to take the spots of the guys that got shipped out. They stockpiled the farm system. I know the Rays are like blowing it up, quote unquote, but like, let's pump the brakes a little bit, because a lot of these guys like Rasmussen and Springs, one is back, one is coming back. I mean, those were 2 of your best starters last year before they got hurt. So it's a lot of subtraction, but the guys who are coming back to take some of these guys' spots, I still like what the Rays have cooking down there, and they held on to a lot of their core. So, shout out Neander and the gang up there in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think the Rays have earned just like winners in perpetuity in the trade deadline from here on out. I don't know that. I mean, I could pick apart some of these deals and say, why are you trading away Paredes after he just made his first All-Star team? Why are you trading away Eflin? He's been a big part of your rotation. You're still trying to make a push. But at the end of the day, they've shown that they can trade away anybody and bring in talent and then develop that talent to be big pieces of their future. And it's not often that I think you need to have like blind faith in an organization if you're a fan of that team. But the Rays are definitely really close to that that criteria of where they make a deal and you're just like, yeah, sure, go for it. Let's see how it works. I think the Eflin deal especially is kind of interesting too. I think that the way that was structured, they were never going to keep him for 4 years. I know it was a 4-year, $40 million deal, but I think so much of the money was backloaded that next year he's like 15 million or something. And they were just like, yeah, signing to trade you. What they did with Wander Franco, also whole different story there. But just because that's how they kind of work. I remember when that deal came around, it was like, this is a $40 million deal to Zach Eflin. It's the biggest contract, one of the biggest contracts in Rays history, at least for the last 10 years or so. And they had no intention of ever paying him the $40 million. I think that's hilarious.
Have the Rays not earned our like you said, just mutual understanding that things are going to work out? Yeah. Like for Paredes and Arozarena, I know, especially the Randy one, because Randy Land, he's a cult hero. But when Randy Arozarena got to the Rays, nobody knew who he was. And he was an afterthought in the Jose Martinez deal. Everybody was kind of just like, oh, okay, we got this guy from the Cardinals, whatever. And then and then Paredes, again, same kind of thing. Nobody knew who he was. He hits a bajillion pull-side homers, which I don't know. His spray chart is hilarious if you ever look that up. But, they know how to do it. They have a way of going about things. It's like when they structured the Glasnow contract, where I think his last year in Tampa, he was supposed to make like 25 mil. And then you knew when you saw that, you're like, they're not paying that. He's going to be gone before that kicks in. I think it was like 5 million, 25 or something crazy like that. So,
which is nuts because that's not even a bad contract. Like, let's say it was a 1-year, $25 million deal for Glasnow recently with where he's been. Like, that's a fine deal.
Yeah.
They just refuse to pay it at all.
That's a fun little exercise, for baseball fans, is go check out some of these Rays contracts and how they're structured, because the final year or years of them is just going to be like 3 times the initial amount. But here's the thing that I'm glad the Rays did. And I know they had a lot of guys swirling around. They kept some of the core, these are Rays. Bilal. They kept Yandy. They kept our guy Pete Fairbanks. I know they traded 9 guys, which is insane. But I'm glad that they kept some of the guys who are going to be culture setters, tone setters. This is the Ray way.
Like a Ray.
Yeah. I was a little sad. I was a little sad when Pete's name kept coming up in trades, because I was like, for the love of God, please don't.
Yeah. Yandy on any of their team would feel a little bit weird too. But I mean, he'll be there next year. He'll probably get traded at this rate. I don't know what his contract is, but at some point.
Yeah, let's get IT on that. Let's check out the backloading structure of Yandy's deal, because it's probably outrageous also.
Yeah.
But yeah, have some faith if you're a Rays fan. I know it's ugly and you're like, I just bought a whatever Isak Paredes jersey. It's like, well,
I think they're smarter than that. They're not buying anyone's jersey.
I saw one. It was like player to be named later. It was like the back of it. It's just
it's a classic one.
Yeah. Okay. Give me a winner. It's a South Florida team. What did you like about Miami?
Yeah. So the Marlins, I mean, it's hard to quantify a seller as a winner on their team, but I think that they just did a great job. And I feel like we'll get to this more when I talk about my losers, but if you're going to tear it down, tear it down to the studs. Want to hear a crazy stat that I read the other day about the Marlins? Mm-hmm. Right now on their roster, they have one guy making over $1 million, and he's making $2 million. They drop current roster states. They get rid of everybody who's making, and not I don't feel like they were trying to clear payroll. That wasn't their main goal, but that's just kind of where they ended up. And now their payroll's $13 million, I think, as a team. If they were over the year, I mean, yeah, how ridiculous is that? And that's not even why I would call them my winner. I think they added 11 total prospects. I think I saw 5 or 6 of them would be in the top 30 now, depending on which prospect ranking you use. I mean, again, 2 or 3 guys from the from the Padres. They got the number 2 prospect there. It's just a really smart way to do it. And again, if you're going to tear it down, tear it down. There's no point in keeping anyone. If you're going to be bad, be bad. Let's see. Yeah. And, okay, so the guys they traded. Jazz, I don't think he was ever going to be a part of the next winning team. He had average numbers. He's going to do better in Yankee Stadium with that kind of more intensity in a playoff push anyway. They traded a bunch of impending free agents. De La Cruz, they got rid of him to the Pirates. I don't really know why the Pirates wanted Brian De La Cruz. He's had 4 years at 700 OPS. If I'm the Marlins, just get rid of him. I mean, not get rid of him. Like, that's a prime change of scenery candidate. They got something in return for him at least. What was the other one I saw? One more point. Oh yeah, and so they had the worst lineup in baseball already. So get rid of these guys, and now they've got a lot of the guys they got. Trevor Rogers from the Orioles. They got Kobe Mayo from the Orioles for him.
Ooh, they got Norby and Stowers.
Oh, it was Colby Norby or something, right?
Connor Norby.
Norby. Did you see the Orioles meme recently where they had like 9 guys who just looked the exact same as their top prospect?
Blonde hair. Yeah, long blonde hair.
Yeah. Well, different. Okay, tangent there. But yes, they added a lot of upper level minor league hitters who will probably be there at the end of this year, if not the early next. I mean, run by Peter Dennis. We were just talking about the Rays. I think they did a great job.
So while you're saying that, it really piqued my curiosity. So I went to, is it Spotrac or Spot Rack? I don't know. Whatever like the payroll website is. 2025 Marlins payroll, $31 million. The person on their active roster right now who makes the most money is, like you said, it's Jesus Sanchez, makes 2.1 mil. Everybody else is like under $1 million, like you said. That's just, that blows my mind. It's kind of a slap in the face to some of the fans. It's kind of like, well, how is the owner able to just pocket every single cent that comes off this team? Because the payroll is $17. But yeah, it's the Marlins are going to be an interesting case study to see how long it takes them to rebuild, because they got the guys. Stowers, the guy from the Orioles, is batting in the 3 spot today, so that was fun. Shout out, Kyle. Oh, you said the Pirates. Yeah, the reason, because they don't have any offense. Like Jack Sawinski hits like $150, and it's just like Michael A. Taylor. And
he has a 700 OPS. I can't be your big ticket addition on the trade deadline is Brian De La Cruz, who's never like broken out or anything. I mean, I've watched the Marlins for years as a Mets fan, and there was like, oh, here's Brian De La Cruz. He's got all the physical tools in the world, and he'll hit a home run and then do something crazy. But at the end of the day, his stats are still nothing crazy when you take him out over the whole year.
Oh, he's got a WAR of 0. Damn it.
Yeah, I think he was I think he was one of the pieces in the Yelich deal. Maybe think of him or Monte Harrison. I'm not sure. I don't want to Harrison was one. I got a couple outfielders for Yelich. But yeah, I mean, let's go to the Pirates now. Like, that can't be your big ticket addition when you've got the 3-headed monster they've got at the top. Wow.
Look, the Pirates are operating under a different set of circumstances. They are kind of in that boat where they don't have the flexibility. Ben Cherington, the GM extraordinaire, has talked about the fact that he wishes that he could have more money to spend, but he can't.
Sure.
So yeah, I think they did the best with what they could with De La Cruz, because I think he's making $768,000 this year.
Yeah, they got him for 3 years. Maybe he breaks out.
He's got 18 home runs.
I mean, it's a nice little pickup. I mean, we're talking about from the Pirate side of it. I would have wanted them to get a little better with that.
Yeah, they probably could have done better going to get even just anybody else from the Marlins. They could have brought Josh Bell back. They could have got Berger.
Yeah,
still there for some reason. But yeah, Pirates are an interesting one. That kind of hurt my heart a little bit. Did you have anybody else that came out with a dub, or do you want to talk some L's?
Let's talk some losers.
All right. I'm going to start with a weird one. Not a team. It is all of the Twitter accounts that tweeted that players were scratched from the lineup. You see this a lot with trade deadline season, mostly top prospects, sometimes big league guys, where a Twitter account will say, insert player here has been removed from tonight's lineup, non-injury related. Could he be on the move? And I'm going to give a special shout out to @MLB Deadline News on X, because they are the number one culprit. All I saw, they do like the screenshots of the player page, which is just all my Twitter has become lately. Rockies' Austin Gomber was abruptly pulled from his start today. Colorado is reportedly listening to offers. This one could be legit. Was not moved. Colorado Rockies outfielder Brenton Doyle was abruptly pulled from today's game with no reason. Could be something, could be nothing. 'Tis the season. Neither of those guys were moved. They also gave Christian Walker a hug watch, who pulled his oblique and ended up actually being hurt. So shout out all of these people for drumming up false trade buzz when guys are probably most likely just they pulled something.
it's tough that the line is you get pulled from a game at this time of year, you're either like injured seriously or you're getting traded. There's no in between.
No in between. Yeah, it's I'm gonna go to play for the Pirates now, or like I think my hamstring's a little sore.
Yeah, or I'm out for a month.
Or I'm out for a month. It's just it just creates unnecessary, especially from like the players' side too. Can you imagine being like the wife, the family of some of these guys, and you're looking on the bird and you're like, well, wait a minute, why is Christian Walker on hug watch? What's cooking that we don't know?
It's got to be being one of the families of one of these players who's getting who's like in the rumor mill at this time of year has got to be so hectic when you're just trying to figure out where you'll be for the next only over a couple months with the impending free agent guys too.
That's gotta suck. Like, I know like when guys get traded, it's obviously for a good thing. Like, a team values me a lot. They want me to be there or whatever. But also from just like the players' families, logistics side, it's like, God damn it, I got to go live in like an extended stay America out of a suitcase in a city that I don't know for the next 2 months. That's gotta blow.
It's gotta suck even worse if you're one of the big league pieces going back in the deal.
Yeah.
At least you can, if you're getting traded somewhere, you can be like, all right, well, I'm going to a winner. But if it's the other way around, sorry, man.
Yeah, all the guys going to the south side of Chicago, they're like, God damn it.
Anywhere else.
Yeah, or Crochet. It's like, I still have to be here. Hey, you know what? That was actually a really good unintended segue because here's another team that took an L over the trade deadline. It was Chicago White Sox. Chris Getz, GM, I think since 2023. Guy got taken for a ride. Guy, I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's very smart because he's a GM of a team. But if us from our couches eating Doritos can be like, that's not good, then, I mean, how does he not understand that, like, you should probably get something for Fedde and Tommy Pham in a three-team trade? You should probably get something out of that for those guys. Crochet probably could have gotten a lot for him. I don't know. But White Sox, big L.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I don't see any world where packaging those three guys together gets you the most efficient return. I mean, get people bidding against each other. Don't just be like, hey, St. Louis, do you want these guys for, I guess, literally nobody? That just seems like an interesting move to me. And, Crochet, like I said earlier, should have been gone. It should have been gone a while ago. I mean, he always, throughout the entire year, he lost value because of how many starts he was making with the White Sox and knowing that this innings limit was coming. I just simply don't see. It's not like the White Sox were contending. There were never any chance that they were going to be in the wild card race. I don't see any reason why you would hang on to him. I mean, they'll still probably he'll definitely be the first guy traded this offseason with more people, with more suitors in the market. Also, I would have thought that would have been interesting. If I'm Chris Getz, I would have called, like the Washington Nationals or a team that's not doing anything this year, but trading him for Crochet, you'll have him for 2 more years. This way you can ensure he doesn't throw 180 innings this year. You can shut him down and take care of him. You can extend him too, because it doesn't matter that he's not going to pitch in October if you're not going to make it there. And that way I would have gone out as a bad team and gone to get him now, because now you have to compete with all the other teams in the winter.
God damn it, that's good. That hit. When you said that, especially the Nationals part, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, that would have been a Mike Rizzo move. A Mike Rizzo masterclass where he's like the meme of him smoking the cigar. That would have been the perfect, like, this is a team that's on the come up. Give us a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. We're in the thick of it again. But, God damn it, that would have been a good one. I'll give him a little bit of credit. They successfully somehow traded Eloy Jimenez in that massive dumb contract to the Baltimore Orioles in a salary dump move. I didn't think that was possible. But somehow the Orioles, I guess we'll talk about them more in a little bit, but they are just now taking salary dumps, which is a nice change of pace because usually they're the ones doing the dumping. That was a pretty savvy move. So, all the shit we just talked, Chris Getz, not so bad.
I'm going to talk shit about Chris a little more though.
Just a little.
This is yes, impressive that he got anything at all in return for Jimenez, even if it was just dumping his contract off. But if I told you 2 or 3 years ago that Eloy Jimenez would have been a salary dump at the 23 deadline, I mean, it would have been like, no, he's not. You're an idiot. He was an MVP candidate, and now you're dumping it for salary. Obviously, it's not Chris Getz's fault that he fell off a cliff and couldn't hit water if he fell off a boat. But It's just, I don't know. It just feels like bad. You know, they're not assets; they're players, but like a little bit of bad asset management.
It's so fucking funny. It's a good point. It's a good point, Ricky. All right, here's another L. New York Yankees. I take no pleasure in describing them an L, by the way. I know a lot of people out there think I'm just purely Yankees-filled hate. I want them to get the 28th ring. That's on the record. Jazz Chisholm and Mark Leiter Jr. for a team that had such high aspirations for a trade deadline that was supposed to solve all their problems. It was supposed to patch all their holes, especially the fans on Twitter, which we'll talk about here in a second. But all I saw on the Bird, this trade deadline lead up, was tweets like this one. The Yankees have expressed interest in the following people per John Heyman: Yandy, Luis Rengifo, Tanner Scott, Pete Fairbanks, Kyle Finnegan, Lucas Urseg, Jonathan India. Didn't get any of them, especially the Pete one. The Pete one made me sad, but for a team that came in, you're like, this is it. This is the Yankees' time to just get Leiter and Jazz.
Yeah,
not great.
No, it didn't feel like enough. I'm definitely a little bit higher on their deadline than you are. You know, I think that I love the Jazz Chisholm move. Helps when he hits 5 home runs in his first 3 games, or 4 and 3 or whatever it is to start. That's how you endear yourself to Yankees fans early. Mark Leiter, I mean, he pitched well last night, but it felt like they needed like another big piece. I thought Rengifo from the Angels would have been a great fit for them because he's another guy that can move around the infield, you know. But it's been a week ago. Volpe's hitting 3-something since the break. Glaber maybe turning around a little bit, although he refuses to play third, which is ridiculously stupid.
I saw that. What was the quote?
I love the quote that I saw. The tweet about that, it was Glaber Torres, most errors in the MLB at second base, in like parentheses, refuses to move from second base, which is just, I don't get why. If I was him, I mean, sure, try it somewhere else. You're gonna be a free agent in a year. They know you can't play second. No one's gonna sign you for that. But I mean, at least Jazz seems eager to do it, and you know, I think he's a little bit of injection of life that could help turn them around and be a big part of it. And they got him for a couple of years too.
Yeah. Is it Brian Hawk or Hoke? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Hawk, maybe.
Glaber Torres is not thrilled by the idea of seeing time at third base. Quote, I am a second baseman. I play second.
It's pretty shitty second baseman.
That's also a weird, like, most people are like, I'm a shortstop. I've always been a shortstop. But Glaber is like digging his heels in. He's like, no, I play the keystone.
I would love to know what quote he had when he got moved from short to second a couple years ago when he was real ass at short.
I like this kind of dynamic that we bring about the Yankees because, you know, I know a lot of people think I don't like them, and probably because the things that come out of my mouth. But I like how you're the kind of like the more like even keeled, even as a Mets guy. So this is a good kind of like buddy cop action we have here. I'm
just surrounded by Yankees fans 24/7. I live with one of them, and we just I hear all about it nonstop.
They're a vocal fan base, especially on the Bird. When the Pete Fairbanks news was potentially happening, per whatever that guy reporter from NJ.com or whatever is like, they've shown serious interest in Pete Fairbanks, and then it's like, bring him to me now. It's like all the Yankees fans are saying. It's like, oh goddamn, this is weird. Didn't get him. Still a Ray.
Makes sense. I don't know why you would have traded him to the Bronx if you were Tampa Bay. I mean, I know they don't care about that, but
yeah, I thought that too. But then they traded Eflin into division, so you know that used to be a thing where it's like, in division, you don't do that.
Yeah, but going to Baltimore is different than going to the Bronx, I would say, if I was Tampa. And the Orioles have such a good farm system. That makes a little bit more sense. You know, I feel like the Yankees and Tampa, like the Yankees have their whole spring training facility in Tampa. Like a lot of people in Tampa are Yankees fans because of that. That would be a relationship that'd be a little different.
There should be a thing against trading with your hated rival. Like I know the Yankees and Red Sox have done deals together too. There should be a thing.
Rarely. They do like 1 or 2 deals every 10 years. They made
like a comment.
For the Verdugo deal, I remember there was something like, this is the first Yankees Red Sox deal since, you know, Doyling O'Toole in 1984.
Curly O. Darnold.
Babe Ruth actually would probably be.
Pitched in 1880. Yeah. But no, I think there should be a thing where you're not allowed to trade with your rival. There should be in the next CBA or something, because yeah, if you're like, it's like Dodgers and Giants shouldn't be swinging deals together. It's, you know, but weird. It is weird. But you sent me so we're talking about the Yankees fans. We're talking about how they always have these high expectations. maybe I don't have as much background information on the way they speak about trades and other players as you do, being a New York guy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the New York Post back cover you sent me about Yankees?
All right, so yeah, I'll go a little bit back. I'll give the fans here a little bit of the behind the scenes work where Justin sent me our kind of list of notes when we were talking about this, and you had a line in there that said, after this whole thing about the Yankees trying to get everybody, maybe Yankees fans will learn now that they won't get everyone that they're attached to. And I actually fell out of my chair laughing at that statement. That's one of the like Yankees fans have not learned that lesson in 25 years since 2000 or 15 or whatever, since 2009 when they got everybody. I was the New York Post thing I was talking about was there was a couple of years ago where there's a New York Post back page that, and for those who don't know, the New York Post back page is always like some sort of sports commentary. It's always a pun related. It's hilarious. If there's ever something that happens in New York sports, check out the New York Post back page. So it was a New York sports back page. It was like right at the start of the winter meetings, and it was called "Just Buy Them All" was the caption, and there was it was Judge's free agent year. Judge in the Yankees jersey, Edwin Diaz in the Yankees jersey, Verlander in the Yankees jersey, and I forget who the fourth one was. DeGrom maybe. It was
Correa, Diaz, Verlander, and Judge.
And Correa.
By the way,
and they would just buy all of them. That is what Yankees fandom is just take everybody. And I'll admit, I'm a Knicks fan also. It's the same fan base. Knicks, give us everybody. Oh, superstar in the market? Yeah, he should be a Yankee. Yeah, he should be a Knick. It's the same thing. And that's never going to change. So I thought that was adorable. And I'm right in the thick of it too in New York.
Yeah.
That will never go away.
It's good for people outside the New York metro area to hear this stuff though, because like for me in the DMV, Maryland, DC area, it's just like, you know, as like a rational, like the Orioles will never be able to go out and buy. Well, maybe that'll change, but they've never been like he should be a Baltimore Oriole. But it's funny if you drive up a little bit, take the New Jersey Turnpike to Yankee Land. It's just, oh, it's the biggest, best player ever. Bring him to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember they were like, give me Harper, give me Machado, give me all those guys that year. And I will say that my favorite part about that specific New York Post article or photo that we keep talking about is there was about a week there where three of those guys were Mets before Correa had the second thing fall apart. Because Verlander was a Met, we signed Diaz, and Correa was a Met for a week. The amount of shit I was talking that week was unmatched. I was just sending that post around saying, listen, buy them all. Yeah, we did with Uncle Stevie. And then, you know, I kind of eat my words a little bit with the Correa stuff, but that's not what's important.
That's a great point. It's like, hey, Yankees, buy them all, by the way, whatever. Guess what? Steve Cohen did. Damn. I like that a lot, man. Okay, I'll have you kind of run through some other guys you have, you know, placed the unfortunate L tag on.
Yeah, I'll hit a couple quick ones. Houston, we talked about them already, but way too big of a price to pay. Just not the big splash that they needed. They probably needed a bat too, maybe a first baseman. I don't think they got. So I got them as a loser. Pirates, talked about them also. Would have liked to see them do a little bit more, capitalize on this momentum with Skeens, Keller, and Jones. Get a big bat in there. Again, didn't do it. The Blue Jays, I thought the Blue Jays were another loser too. Yeah, they got a great return for Kikuchi. They made another couple moves on the margins, but I thought they really had a chance to take advantage of a big seller's market. It never felt like they were going to trade lower Vladdy or Bo, but I feel like they probably should have. I mean, there was no big bats that got moved. So if you can, you know, kickstart your rebuild like crazy, I would have done that. Bassett's another guy too. He's one more year of control. So I think what the Blue Jays were saying is that they were trying to reload for 2025. But I just don't see any world where they're better than the Yankees or the Orioles next year. And I find it hard to believe that they'll be better than the Rays or the Red Sox. So yes, they're still like, they're not I wouldn't consider them a last place team in the division, but that's just where the AL East is right now. And I think that reloading for another year to go back at it with this core again is probably just going to result in the same problem happening next year, and you'll get worse prospects.
AL East balance of power is a fascinating case study because I think everybody kind of thought the Boston Red Sox wouldn't be as good as they are. And we were sadly mistaken because what are the Red Sox right now? The Red Sox are 2.5 out of a wild card. They're 56 and 50. Yeah. You know, Jared Carrabis, I keep up to date on all his, you know, hype on the Red Sox. But yeah, Blue Jays definitely an L. Here's a player that took an L. It's not necessarily his fault. I think Kevin Pillar's just kind of whole situation is an L. Maybe we'll give it to the Angels for holding on to Kevin Pillar. So he's going to retire after the end of the year. He's played 12 years in the bigs, took a fastball to the face. Never forget, just an absolute bloodbath he took. Never won a ring. For Kevin Pillar. Guy's a grinder. He's batting .308 with the Angels this season. He's on a 1-year deal. Like I said, he's going to retire. The Angels probably as a whole, like you said, we'll talk about in a second, kept everybody for some reason, but they should have freed my man Kevin Pillar. Let him go get a chance to try to go to at least a contender. Let's go to like the best team in America, but give him a shot. It's just, it felt weird to keep him in LA. So yeah, I felt bad for Pillar.
Yeah, I put this on the Angels. This is an Angels loser scenario. I mean, Kevin Pillar's a guy, he had 10 years of service this year. Everyone loves him. He's been a great leader on how many different teams throughout his career. Do the guy a service and just send him somewhere good. I mean, I get like, oh, the Tigers saying, hey, you have to beat a qualifying offer for Flaherty because that's what we're going to offer him. We'll get a first-round comp pick. Like, that's the bar. We can keep him and get something out of that. He's pretty openly said he's going to retire at the end of the year. The Angels are nowhere near it. They sold off 2 other pieces. I personally think they should have sold off more. So I don't really see what the point of keeping him was. Yeah, maybe for him, he gets to play every day now. He might not do that in a different team. But you got to feel for the guy. Give him a chance.
Yeah, the Angels, they kept Taylor Ward would have been one. I think I heard the Pirates were interested in Taylor Ward, which I think would have been a good one. But yeah, the Angels right now are in 4th place. They're 47-60.
Yeah,
that felt unnecessary keeping him.
It's like 3 years in a row now that they should have torn it down, and they haven't. Last year, all right, I get it, go for it with Ohtani, but they were nowhere near it this year. It's not like you could say Trout's coming back to help. I mean, he just had another setback. I don't get what the strategy there is at all. I mean, it seemed like I was looking at the Angels like Twitter and fan base. They were pretty happy about the return they got for Estevez. Obviously, he was a free agent, so they had to get rid of him. And it seemed like they weren't too happy about the Garcia move and who they got back for him. And if those are like your 2 real big ticket moves and you kind of got back a little bit of value for Estevez and a little bit less for Garcia, what do you have to show for this, what's likely going to be a 35 game under 510 a year?
I'm going to give another L real quick. I'm going to give it to the Miami Marlins because they traded for my guy, Connor Norby from the Baltimore Orioles. Guy is a AAA legend at this point. He's played in AAA since 2022. His numbers at AAA are insane. This year in AAA, he batted .297 with 16 bombs. This year with Baltimore, he has 2 home runs. He goes to the Miami Marlins in a deal for Trevor Rogers, which I'll talk about more in a second. But I looked on the Miami Marlins lineup. I know they said Stowers is batting in the 3 spot. They put Connor Norby in AAA again. What does this man have to do to stop playing in AAA? He's 24. I think he tweeted at the beginning of the year. I think I brought this up before. He was like, Norfolk Tides, year 3, let's get it. And I'm like, that's a sarcastic guy. You shouldn't be in Norfolk anymore. It's like just a Norfolk Tide. They're going to retire his number. He's that good of a Norfolk Tide. But yeah, free my man Connor Norby. I just want to give a quick free my man's. There's no reason it should still be a AAA.
I'm sure he'll be up soon. Maybe some roster manipulation or some, what's it called? Service time manipulation there. Hopefully he keeps going. He'll be up there. Connor Norby, wait your turn, man. It's coming.
He's like, guy, just loves AAA. All right, here's not a winner, not a loser. Still just kind of feel generally sad. Maybe a general malaise has set in over the Baltimore Orioles and their trade deadline. They went for quantity over quality. They did not get Skubal. They did not get Crochet, but instead they got Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, Austin Slater, Eloy Jimenez, probably some other ones that I'm forgetting. That's a lot of names, but they definitely were in on Skubal. They were in on Crochet, but they couldn't, pony up all the top prospects, probably for the best because Jackson Holliday hit a grand slam today.
Yep.
This is a great to start the rotation. Eflin and Rogers, those are 2 guys that have control after this year. Eflin is going to make a lot more money, which I think the ownership has said they're whatever. We're cool to spend a little more change on some of these guys, which is fun. Slater and Eloy, I just don't understand. Like the whole thing is like we crush left-handed pitching, but like neither can really play defense, and they just kind of take up roster spots from all the guys in Norfolk, like I just mentioned. And then they just took every bad Phillies reliever in Dominguez and Soto. So, hey, positive Orioles. The fact that they took on Eflin and Eloy's contract shows that they're willing to pony up and spend some money. So that's the spin zone in my head. What did you think about the Birds deadline?
Yeah, I definitely would have liked to see them get a bigger name on the rotation, just to cover. They were saying like in case Burns leaves next year, get a Crochet, you have him for 2 years. They're a pretty good team. I like the Eflin move. I mean, he's a veteran. He's pitched in the playoffs a little bit. Trevor Rogers too is a nice move. He's a good pickup. But they have such a strong farm system. I would have loved to see them try to pry away one of those big name guys from a team that didn't want to trade him. Skubal probably wasn't going to happen, but there may be some other guys out there. Maybe, force the Giants to give you Blake Snell, something like that. Would have been a cool addition, but I still think they're gonna be in it toward the end.
They could have saved the money that they're gonna have to spend on Eloy and Eflin. They could have went and got Blake Snell.
Maybe they think Eloy's the only guy who can hit it out to left there now.
Also, Slater is like a pinch hitter. I don't know, like I'm sure he's a nice guy. I don't want to be mean. That was just it was a curious. It's not his fault. But yeah, it was a little weird. What did you think about the M's? The M's were in kind of a similar boat, but would you say not winner, not a loser?
Yeah, I'd put them firmly in the let's see what happens category. Another thing, I mean, they're a little banged up right now. I mean, JP Crawford and Julio Rodriguez should be coming back soon. And I love the Randy deal. No qualms about that. It's exactly what we needed to do. I don't know that Justin Turner was the best second bat they could have gotten. If he goes nuts the next 2 weeks, I'm wrong. But I was looking at stats. He's barely above league average. He's hit 6 bombs on the year. Yeah, he's a good veteran hitter. He'll be a great person in the postseason lineup. But I don't know that was enough to support the just ridiculous pitching staff that they have. And plus, also, they have so many like their 6 through 8 pitchers are probably better than most teams 2 through 4. And that probably would have been a good stockpile that I would like to see them kind of move away from a little bit. I feel like teams often just kind of hang on to guys for a little bit too long in that scenario if you don't have a place to play them. But, so I don't want to call them a winner or a loser because they did make some good moves that I like, but I definitely think they could have gotten another bat.
Yeah, especially with the Astros nipped at their heels in the AL West. Astros only a game back in the division. I looked at the runs scored. The Mariners have scored the fewest runs, at least in the AL West. There's very few teams that have scored fewer runs than the Seattle Mariners have. So, Randy is a good one. Yeah, Turner's a little bit weird. But, yeah, it's just kind of in like that, we needed bats. They got bats. So it's like you can't even be like, you didn't even address the need. Yeah. So, get a little wait-and-see action for the Seattle Mariners. All right, a couple last things. This has been great. New sponsor alert, because I would like to welcome the newest sponsor of the Breaking Bats podcast, Morning Baseball. They're an incredible baseball streetwear brand whose mission is to provide motivation for the tough mental side of baseball. Ricky, as a former college baseball player, all too well, I didn't mean to use a Taylor Swift reference, about just the tough mental side of the game and how this is a game of failure. We're happy to welcome on Morning Baseball. So we're going to do the Grinder of the Week presented by Morning Baseball. Visit them at morningbaseball.com and use the promo code BATS10, BATS10 for 10% off of your first order. In honor of the Morning Baseball Grind Don't Sleep mantra, we're going to give our Grinder of the Week this week to Guardians left fielder Steven Kwan. Steven Kwan is second in the bigs right now with a .332 average, one of the best pure contact hitters the game has seen. But I read a story about how he's able to conquer the mental side of the game of baseball. There's a great tweet thread about this. His freshman year at Oregon State, .215 hitter, called it a little bit of imposter syndrome where, he didn't feel like he belonged. His heart was like beating out of his chest every time he stepped up to the plate. So here is a clip that I am going to pull up right now.
kind of what's helped me with it is identifying thoughts that are negative or positive, accepting them for what they are, and then being able to move on. I think a lot of times we kind of internalize negative thoughts but never address them, and that can kind of eat away at you. So just kind of being aware of those thoughts, kind of like as clouds in the sky, just notice that there's a cloud, but always looking for that sunny day, that nice blue sky in the back is really important. So I think that's carried me throughout my career so far.
Okay. That was Guardians left fielder Stephen Kwan. And then obviously the next year, Oregon State, 331. The rest is history. He's a first-time All-Star this year. A guy's batting well over 300, always has been. So when you hear Stephen Kwan talk about the mental side of the game, where does your mind go immediately?
I mean, when we think about baseball, it's such a mental game. When I always talk about baseball, I like to think that it taught me how to deal with failure. As a hitter, you go up there, you make out 7 out of 10 times, you're considered one of the best in the game. So Stephen Kwan's a guy who's obviously clearly been through, the ups and the downs. He knows all about it. And it's really refreshing and cool to see that he figured out how to deal with that and how to respond back from failure and perform at the highest level. And clearly he's doing that now as one of the best players in the game.
Yeah. I hate this because it's such a cliche, but it's kind of true. You as a hitter, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time my little league coach told me that, I probably would be raking in the Stephen Kwan dough he's making right now. So, I thought that was cool. So yeah, like I said, check it out, morningbaseball.com, promo code BATS10. All right. Last thing. This is a crazy wild. I don't know what to call this. We're just going to call it the fun last thing because former Tampa Bay Rays, he's played for a couple other teams, but we'll always think of him as a Ray. Brett Phillips signed a minor league contract with the Yankees as, get this, he is a pitcher now. He will start working out their Tampa minor league complex. So I think everybody's kind of seen by now the video of Brett Phillips doing the funky, weird warm-up action in the bullpen in Tampa. Yep. I think my favorite part about that clip was Pete Fairbanks' face when he was watching it, and Brett was walking out to the mound. 5 1/3 innings at the big league level. But what do you think about Brett Phillips making a career change and becoming a pitcher?
I love it. I mean, one of the better personalities in the sport. He's getting out there trying to make his way back, and he's doing something different. I mean, he's throwing 97, so it's definitely legit. He's definitely got a chance to do something out there. Let's see. Maybe he's that big addition the Yankees made at the deadline instead of any of those starters.
Where was 97 when he was position player pitching in blowouts? How did he just have that skill set to be I can throw almost 100 in a clean, repeatable delivery when he was basically lobbing 30-mile-an-hour junk up there? Everybody's like, oh, this is so funny and quirky. It's Brett Phillips. They're like, no, he's an actual pitcher now. I would love to know the progression.
Maybe he went to driveline or something. Got some weighted balls. Couple of these.
He's on the weighted ball program, and then fast forward a couple years later, and he's like, oh, okay. Good for Brett Phillips. I hope he makes it. It will be weird to see him wearing a Yankees uniform if he ever gets called up.
He won't have no beard, no hair then.
Well, if you saw the video of him, I don't even know what league he was pitching in, but whatever the broadcast was when Brett Phillips was pitching, did not recognize him at first.
Yeah. Clearly not. I think they were talking about, they were like, is this guy looks a lot like Brett Phillips from the Rays.
I think it's Brett Phillips. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So goddamn funny. All right. That was winners, losers, trade deadline recap. Ricky, you are the man. Always appreciate it. And this is going to be a fun second half of the season here.
Yeah. Now the season begins.
Now the real season begins.